Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fully live episode of Hacking with Friends. I'm looking very mysterious today as my main light just went out 2 seconds before we started. So if you'll excuse me, I'm going to see if I can fix that. Okay, it has crashed. That is really interesting to see. Oh, well, okay. Oh, well, all right then. That's great. I guess I'll have to do this. Okay, well, our studio lights are completely dead and I'm the only one here, so I guess we're going to do it with just the house lights. Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of Hacking with Friends. I'll just remind you, I am the video engineer here. I am the host, and I am also sometimes the guest. So, all right, I guess that's the best I can do. Welcome to another episode. We're going to go over the hacking news today, and by we, I mean my co-host Killian, who is also not here. So, bit of a rough start today. I'm also sick, so this is going to be a fun one. But let's go ahead and jump into a couple of things I wanted to talk about today, starting with a Flipper Zero release. So I have my own Flipper Zero right here, and yesterday I went ahead and actually set this up with the new firmware update. It worked very well, and it was easy to do. So yeah, let's take a look at what actually changed, and I want to try this out. So with the Flipper Zero, one of the things it's supposed to be able to do is clone hotel key cards. That's one of its advertised features. However, if you've ever tried to do this before, you might realize it's not as straightforward as it seems. So when you have something like a key card, and I have a couple of them here, one from San Francisco, this one's from Las Vegas, and then this one is from New York. So if you have a key card and you want to clone it with a Flipper Zero, there's a built-in feature here that allows you to read the radio information and attempt to break into it and find out what the information is. If you succeed, then you can clone the card and you can actually use your flipper to get into your room. I've done this a couple of times. It's extremely satisfying and it makes people amazed. Yes, thank you, SAQ. I too am sad that my smart, very expensive light failed moments before the show and also seems to have crashed so hard that it will not turn on anymore. Interesting. So anyway, let me go ahead and share my screen here. Thank you. So I've got this Flipper Zero announcement, and I also have a program I can run, a built-in macOS program called QFlipper. And I actually don't remember if this is available for all operating systems, but QFlipper gives you a direct serial connection to your Flipper. And once you plug it in, then it should be able to do all the wonderful things we want to do, including share the screen. So I'm plugging this in. I can see exactly what my Flipper's up to. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it on one of the hotel key cards just for a demo. So I can see we have a update release 101. This was installed. There's no updates here. So let's see. I can look at some of the advanced. Hello, Killian. I can look at some of the advanced stuff here. And I was just going over the Flipper update. And you might notice I'm in darkness. Killian, my main light died, and it crashed so hard that it will not turn on anymore. So I'm in the dark, and yeah, good. I'm glad that you're here, though.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me. It's a surprise guest, I guess, for everybody here.
You, me, and the ghost that is messing with my hardware. Yes, those are our guests today. But yeah,
I mean,
so
it
could be worse.
As long as we're doing ghosts, it is Friday the 13th. I mean, it could be worse. A hockey mask guy could show up at your house.
Okay, well, now I'm paranoid. Yeah, I mean, house lights are fine, I guess, but it certainly looks a lot less fancy when your fancy light does turn off.
That's
anyway,
true. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go.
What do we got?
So all right, I've got a newly updated Flipper. I'm
Okay.
going to I think I'm going to start with the hotel key from New York, and I'm going to use this QFlipper program, and I'm going to. Oh, can I just expand it there? Cool. All right,
nice.
So this is remote control Flipper. It lets me, I think I can just hit the buttons and I can control it. And I see, yes, that's actually what's happening on the screen. Can I hit the back button? Why does it look all crazy? Okay, so I'm gonna go to NFC. So, all right. So before we go too far, I just want to explain what this is doing. We have, after 3 years of development, Flipper's announcing new features. And one of the primary ones is RFID supported protocols. We've got faster
Nice.
Bluetooth. We got supposedly faster everything. And then more infrared ability. 89 sub-gigahertz radio protocol supported. That's really cool because I use the sub-gigahertz radio a lot. External radio module support. So that means you could plug in other radios. And that's really exciting to me because there's lots of other radios I would like to plug into this. Bluetooth 2 times faster, the apps catalog, which is interesting. I have yet to try out too many of the apps, but some of them are good. Some of them I see are not as good, but we'll dive into that later. And then NFC is apparently 3 times faster. So that's really what I wanted to focus in on. This is like an NFC style process. I'm trying to get the key from an NFC system. Previously, this took about 8 minutes, or even sometimes longer to attempt to get all of the information. So according to this NFC subsystem overhaul, that could be now sped up, making it a lot easier for us to, this is the exact thing that caught my attention. So it says that previously this would have taken 8 minutes, 54 seconds. Now it's saying it's going to be 3 minutes, 15 seconds. Well, I've got time on the show, so let's see what we can do. I want to see.
Well, before you get into it, Jay Treg says that Beardy, is too loud.
Oh, well, that's pretty easy to fix if our invisible friend Bill might skosh Killian's volume down a little bit.
That's what I do. I come in here hot.
So let's try to extract the MF keys. All right. Oh, wait. Okay. So that's actually for the reader. All right. So instead, I'm just going to hit read then. So it says to hold the card to Flipper's back. And if it doesn't read this one from New York, I might try a different one. All right. We'll try the one from... Okay, there we go. It liked that one. So the one from San Francisco, it seems to be very attracted to. All right. We got a MyFair Classic System directory. And again, this was honestly kind of tedious in previous versions when people were just like, oh, the Flipper could steal your key when you're sitting there in the elevator next to the person. I'm like, no, it can't. Like, you're not going to be on the elevator for 8 minutes. And if somebody's like following you around with their strange orange and white device pressed against your wallet for like 8 minutes, like you've got other situational awareness problems that you might need to get a handle on first. So yeah, this seems to be going along pretty well. I'm not going to sit here for the entire 3 minutes, but I wanted to set it running and also just kind of give a shout out to Flipper for investing in some of the things that people had been, I guess, kind of complaining about. It does certainly make this device a lot less alluring if you have to, just stay there with it connected for 8. I honestly found this would sometimes take 15 minutes or longer. I could put like a key card in my pocket when walking around and let it do its thing, but frankly, I didn't find it to be a very convenient experience. So a lot of these updates directly address some of these limitations. And I think that it's pretty cool that they've chosen to focus on the things that I personally found some of the most annoying, such as not being able to find certain IR codes, sub-gigahertz radios adjustments for being able to do more with the sub-gigahertz radio. I think that was probably most people's favorite tool on this, and seeing it have a bit more support is really exciting. The JavaScript support, I couldn't care about less. I don't know JavaScript, but I know a lot of people do. So if you're not a fan of C++ or C, then that means you can now also make your own apps in JavaScript, which is cool, but again, not for me. Instead, I was also excited about shaving down the time on this NFC subsystem and making it so you can do card cloning, card emulation a lot faster. But yeah, I still haven't tried out the App Store that much. If anybody in the chat has tried out the App Store and has some recommendations, I'm super interested. And I think overall, third-party apps are really going to be where there's a lot of cool and interesting stuff coming from the Flipper. So I can see, all right, we found 19 of 32 keys, and we've read all of our sectors. So I think it looks like it's trying to either brute force or whatever else. I know that there's also a nested attack that was listed here that I haven't tried out yet. And this was proposed as a solution to some of the shortcomings that Flipper had before, where it just wasn't possible to do some of these attacks without connecting it to a computer or to your phone. So, for example, when you used to crack NFC locks or NFC cards, rather, with the Flipper, it'd be a two-step process. You would need to go up to the reader, extract information, and then upload that information to your phone, which would use its cryptographic prowess to break that key and then feed it back to the flipper 0. At that point, you could then proceed to try to brute force one of these key cards that used a MyFair system. So that two-part process confused and disappointed a lot of people that thought they could just, point this directly at their card and get cracking. So it's interesting to see that the nested attack has actually come to Flipper. So I want to see how this works. And I don't think I have time to demonstrate it on the stream, but it does seem like an attack that a lot of people are going to be interested in because it removes that second step and makes attacking like a hotel key card or something like that a one-step process that could potentially be a lot faster.
Maybe that's a future video idea. Like we'll have you do like a next conference, a rogue, camera video, someone kind of filming you going up and performing the attack. Just throwing it out there as a video idea.
I would like
Guerrilla
to see
style.
maybe how practical like it really does. Oh, look at that. Okay, so we have an incomplete result. So we are done in the advertised like 3 or so minutes. However, we didn't do that first step. So that would be where, because this is a MyFair Classic 1K, and this is a note for all hackers out there, if you're going after this, you kind of got to hit the reader first, because if the keys are already included, which a lot of default keys for these cards are included, like manufacturer set keys, are saved in the flipper. So if they didn't even bother to change the manufacturer encryption key, then you'll be able to read all the different sectors of the card and you can get everything. But this right now, this is incomplete. So if I have 19 to 32 keys, if I attempt to emulate this card, it will not work. It will not open the door. So I would need to then go back and try to get the reader. And this reader is for, let's see, the Marriott in San Francisco. So I'm not going to be going over there anytime soon. So instead, I would need to do something called a nested attack. And now nested attacks typically involve, I don't care. Nested attacks typically involve like a full-on computer or something, but you can see here, there's the nested attack listed. And I can see now that this is an outdated app and I need to go back and get it again. So it has been done. It just apparently needs to be updated, which I did not know before.
Now, question for you, and this is something that I don't know because I've never tried this myself. Can you go up to any reader in that hotel, for example, or does it have to be specific to the room that you're in? Because I've never tried it, and I'm not sure. Like, because that would make a world of difference if it's just anyone, or if it's specific. Yeah.
That's a very good encryption-related key, and it's actually how I got my start in this technology to begin with. So there is a program called MFOC, M-F-O-C. And what it does is it does a nested attack on MyFair keys. So I started getting into this when I worked in a mixed residential, like commercial building. And I found out that the key cards were actually all using the exact same encryption key. So one reader would basically give out a hash of this key. And once I was able to get that, or if I just had 4 or 5 minutes worth of access to one of these key cards, anybody's key card, and a Linux computer, I could break that. And then, because I had the encryption key used to write every single key, it took me literally seconds to copy, or less than a second, to copy any other key in the entire building. So what that meant was the building was so lazy that they were using the same encryption key to not only write little things like, oh, open the front door for this person, but also their room information. So in a smart system that's actually provisioning keys correctly, then each individual room is going to get their own encryption key for the door information, for example, but the is a hotel guest information might all be encrypted with the same thing. So that means that I could take one of these keys and I could get into the front door. That would be possible by approaching the front door reader and getting that information. But in a smart building, and by smart, I mean like intelligent, like they set this up right, and not like, like smart as an IoT. In a smart building, they will issue individual encryption keys for individual rooms to prevent somebody who finds a key outside and gets a hash from the reader from them being able to like access every single room in the building. So most hotels do provision this correctly. I've tested it and it seems that that's the case. The office I worked in did not. And obviously this was for residents too. So that means if one person gets their card compromised, everybody's cards can potentially be compromised and copied as well. And what I found also is once you read this information and you understand the format, you can just change the door that it opens if they all use the same encryption key. That's a really big deal. So yeah, I have to say the kind of NFC technology and NFC hacking is a little bit confusing when you first get into it, but there are some tools out there, especially like Linux-based tools that are able to make this pretty straightforward, and they don't cost very much. This was like a little NFC reader from Adafruit that I still have around somewhere. It's survived for like 8 years. That was one of my first security projects. So I have to tell you, the demo that I did was I brought in I found out on AliExpress that you could get what are called magic cards. And there's these little NFC cards that you can write the information to, but they have the manufacturer bit, which is usually set and you can't change, able to be changed. So you can perfectly clone a key. So I found these little NFC stickers. I put them on a banana and then I used it to open the door. And after a week, they were just like, okay, can you just tell us what's going on? Like, so these security vulnerabilities are real, and NFC is a field that I think a lot more people should be interested in studying, because it's not as hard as you think. And once you learn how the provisioning works and stuff, it's pretty interesting and pretty cool. And the Flipper kind of lets you get there by trying it out for yourself. So if you have a collection of hotel key cards from past vacations, as I do, then you can certainly use a Flipper to learn more about NFC, because I feel like of all the ways to acquire like NFC cards for free, if you forget to return one to the hotel or it ends up in your luggage or something and find it later, they literally don't care. These are like cents to produce. So I have plenty of test ones myself. So
yeah, for the amount that you and I travel for different things, like, I mean, I just have given up and given back, but I have piles of them around the house. So
I love them. Yeah, I love them. I think it's so useful. Just taking a whack at some random hotel security from across the country, I think is cool. I will say though, that in, I think it was Seattle, I found a key card and then I went to the hotel, and the people at the front were so nice. They literally let me test to see if I could get the reader key and then get in. Like they like turned it on for me and stuff. And they were just as interested to me to see if there were any holes in their security. I don't think that's typical. So I think that they were like an unusually cool hotel. So definitely, you know, if you're walking up to scan these readers, as a lot of us did when we first got our Flippers, just be aware that people think that you're trying to get into the building, and they'll sometimes just open the door for you or come outside to ask if you need help. So yeah, while it is fun, it does come with a warning that you should only do it with permission. And if you are walking around doing it in public, it is definitely suspicious looking, and I've been called out numerous times. All right.
Well,
so
I mean, that means security's working though. If people are paying attention, they notice something's up.
I tried that at the Space Needle, and they were like, "Hi, we'd like to know exactly what you're doing."
Right.
Let's have a conversation about this right now. All right. So if we switch over to my screen, I have a couple Meshtastic related things that I think are really cool and interesting, and I want to show them off because Meshtastic, I've talked about this on the show a bunch of times, and I was always like, I wonder if there's like a wiggle Wi-Fi for Meshtastic. And of course, somebody went ahead and did this. So the way that it works is that certain nodes who are forwarding packets that they see over MQTT to a centralized server that basically maps nearby nodes are building a map of all Meshtastic nodes out there. And in order for your device to be heard, it does not need to be forwarding over MQTT to the server. It just needs to be heard by a node that is. So there's a lot of these nodes around the country or all over the place, actually. And I noticed in Los Angeles, they actually provide exceedingly good resolution on the existing nodes. And I was like, all right, well, I wonder, I've been doing a lot of Meshtastic experiments in Los Angeles. Can I actually see the nodes that I've placed? And then if so, is there interesting or cool information to be gleaned from that? So I recently set up a node in Null Space Labs, my favorite hackerspace in Los Angeles, and it is located in Burbank, and here it is. They let me set emojis, and for whatever reason, the imp emoji is one of the only ones that's supported by default on the screens. So here's my node. I can see it last checked in 16 minutes ago, which is pretty cool because I have not touched it, obviously, since I was there like a week ago. And then I can also see some statistics about the local area. I can see the channel utilization is hovering around 23%, which for Meshtastic is kind of crazy. Like I very rarely saw this above like 5% for a very long time. So it seems like the channel is becoming a little bit congested in the Los Angeles area. But when I click on view full details, it doesn't know what it is because this is my hardware that I built. That's why it says private HW, because it's private. But it's a nugget, basically. It's a nugget with its LoRa backpack, and it's checking in. And I attached a sensor to it. So first of all, we have device metrics about the channel utilization. It's just cool to see that like channel utilization has gone up a little bit recently. And then we also can see the environmental metrics that it's been recording. So I set this up with a temperature, humidity, and pressure sensor. And if I extend this to 7 days, I can basically see the conditions inside of Null Space Labs, well, maybe 15 minutes or delayed or so, but in real time. And then also historic data that has been picked up by one of these nodes and then forwarded to the centralized server. So when I created this node, I thought like, okay, when I'm home, I'll be able to maybe check in on this and see what the temperature inside Null Space Labs is. No, that's not true. I could do an environmental study on when people are in Null Space Labs or when they turn the AC on. So it's pretty remarkable to me that, you know, for a little bit of like some of these nodes are like $16, like $30. You could set up something that you can check on from, you know, thousands of miles away. And for you anyway, it's not passed over the internet, but some other random project that's collecting this data and organizing it for people to find is able to preserve this information and share it, which I think is very cool. I forgot to set this node to Fahrenheit, so that's unfortunate. But I can see all sorts of information as well as things like trace routes and other things on this packet. So the last thing I wanted to show off was being able to track things. So one of the use cases for Meshtastic is like a tracker, right? Like you have a device or a truck or cargo or your bag or something that you want to track. So instead of doing this off of centralized like cellular network, you would basically set this up to broadcast its position and just hope that somebody nearby picked it up and forwarded it, and you were able to receive it. That's kind of the hope here. But the promise is it's off grid. So for me, I created a node called FBI Open Up. And the last time it was detected was as I was flying over the state of Nevada, somewhere near Reno. So I enabled the location on this, and it was picked up by a number. This needs to be a little smaller. There we go. And it was picked up by a number of nodes over around the Central Valley of California and then also the coast. So I was able to finally get a message 260 miles from my position all the way to the coast. So theoretically, they could have, you know, told me what the water was like. What's cool about this one is if I click on view location data, let's see, position, show history. I can set it for 7 days and I can see my exact flight path.
Nice.
So let me zoom out even more. So I can see my exact flight path and I can see my movements around Los Angeles in the days prior. So again, I did not know that this MQTT project was logging this data. You know, it's cool, it's fine, but it's a little strange in some ways that like without knowing it, when I turn this on, you know, nobody knows exactly who's listening. But on LoRa anyway, I can see where my plane did a go around. I can see also when I went to my favorite coffee shop. I can see my trip to Null Space Labs also with this node. So for learning about the position of something, this is pretty remarkable. That means that because of this project, if you have a device or something that you want to track around Los Angeles, you can do that in a quote off-grid manner, meaning that somebody's attaching it to the grid, obviously on this last step and allowing you to like, kind of find and collect the data. But at least in terms of setting up the tracker, it does not rely on cellular, Wi-Fi, or anything else. It just broadcasts its position, and then over the mesh net, it's picked up and displayed. And it's also stored and visualized in a historical sense. So that was amazing to me. Not only are there so many nodes out here now, but also the ability to like log moving nodes or positional nodes and see exactly where they've been, to check out temperature sensing information for the last like, you know, like week or so. Like that all kind of blew my mind in how easy and simple it was to set this up.
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right. So next up, we just got a couple closing news stories. We're doing a short stream today based on me feeling like I have to throw up constantly and also our malfunctioning equipment. But on my screen, I have a settlement in the 23andMe case, $30 million, which honestly seems a little low, but whatever. I'm not a judge. For that case we've been talking about since last year or before.
Yeah, it's been a while.
In which people had their entire genetic code stolen and then leaked on the internet. So this agreement is going to cover 6.4 million customers, and it's alleged here that they did not do enough to notify those customers in particular, and that also their security protocols were lax, and they did not really give any response to previous attempts to break into their systems. So this might be the last we hear of this case. I truly hope so, but with that genetic information out, I feel like there will be some sort of fallout still from this genetic information being exposed, aside from just lawsuits.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next up we have so this is just notable where if you have an old Android streaming box, I kind of always thought of these things as just like handy to have, but once they go end of life or they're not able to be updated, they actually just become a huge vulnerability. So if you have one of these devices connected to your home, it's worth noting that they can now be targeted remotely and infected in a way that backdoors them and allows them to do all sorts of bad stuff on your network. So if you have a secure network and then you invite one of these things onto it, it could potentially be your weakest link. Now, apparently these have mostly showed up in Brazil, Morocco, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Argentina, Ecuador. So again, these are like older devices that are like typically end of life or not receiving updates. And that makes them an extremely easy way of breaking into someone's network And, frankly, these aren't typically the target of the attack. These are just the way that hackers get into a network. But when we see some of these cases like that horrible password manager breach where like one of their developers was like infected at home, and that's kind of where the infection started, this just makes me very nervous for any old streaming hardware you might have connected to your network. All right, so a pair of related stories, a cyber attack against Transport for London, and it says that they have confirmed customer data has been stolen. So they are still facing ongoing system outages, and this is something that has not been fully resolved yet, but they are announcing that customer data has been stolen. In particular, this seems to be linked to the refund system. So if you like applied to have a refund and linked your bank account information to receive that refund, it seems like that information may have been stolen. So it looks like the impact is the tube subway information is unavailable on some of their digital channels. Applications for their new photo cards, they call them oysters, that's so cute, are suspended. You're supposed to keep a record of fares, that's great. Contactless users can't access their online journey history. Refunds for incomplete journeys using contactless are unavailable, and staff have limited system access, meaning they've shut down the system for their own staff, making it hard for them to perform certain requests. Relatedly, the UK has arrested a teenager that has been linked to the Transport for London cyber attack. So this was a pretty short loop. So they arrested a 17-year-old who's suspected of being connected. They questioned him and then they released him on bail. But at this point, it is unknown what their connection was or kind of like what really is going on here yet. It does seem like they also have a possible link to the MGM Resorts ransomware attack. So we will see if there's any more fallout from this case. And then
that kid's in big trouble if he was involved in both or either of those.
Yeah,
that's big money, and Vegas and MGM don't screw around when it comes to that.
yeah, I know. And then I think, so this is our last story of the week, I think. This is an old trick that's come back over and over again. And I guess we're mostly just doing a public service here by shouting out what these look like. So we've talked about how these like dream job scams go, right? They approach you online, they pretend to be a recruiter, or they take over some other like legit recruiter's account, and they offer you a job that sounds like a dream job. It pays like a ton and it's so much better. But at the same time, they want you to take a test, and it's a programming test, which is pretty standard. So before they would have you install something that's like has a malicious library, but in this case, they're going to have you attempt to find a vulnerability in a password manager. So you're supposed to download an application, and then when you run it or when you do certain tests on it, you're supposed to figure out what's wrong with it. But in fact, when you run those tests, you're actually activating a backdoor or something else that is supposed to execute a malicious application. So, and of course, they're using this base64 and obfuscated code to actually do the malicious part. So it kind of is the ultimate test, isn't it, developers? Right? It's like, it seems like an easy test, but in fact, it's a test where if you fail it, it will infect your computer and possibly destroy it, or at least steal all of your secrets that you have access to. So if you're a developer and you're looking for jobs, please be on the lookout for these sorts of coding tests and other sorts of things that are typically done by North Korean hackers or other state-sponsored hackers in order to gain access to secrets and infect other people's computers. All right, so based on our equipment failures and me still not feeling 100% today, I'm going to call that it for our Friday stream. Thank you to everyone working with us as we went through some things this week, but we'll have a lot more stuff next week. And also, if you want to support the stream, you can always go to varonis.com/Kody, that's Kody. Lets everyone at Varonis know that you appreciate the stream and you want us to continue to go live every week, twice a week, when our stuff is working. So, Killian, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And for everyone else, I'll see you next week on our Q&A stream, where we'll take all your questions if I didn't get to them today, and also go through the YouTube channel and make sure that I didn't, miss any great comments. And I'm also going to be doing some cloud security stuff. I was going to do it this week, but not this week. It'll be early next week. So if you like our latest cloud security releases, you should check out the last two videos I did on cloud security. One of them was talking about the shared responsibility model, and the second one was talking about AWS logging in CloudTrail and CloudWatch. So if you're interested in getting started in cloud security, I actually also just talked about Burp Suite last week, so that'll be coming out as well. So you can check out our new playlist that's focused on cloud security if you're just getting started and you want to learn more. All right. Thanks, everyone. I will see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.